This pilot spins his glider on final approach trying to top land in Southeast Asia and crashes super hard into the ground. Today, I'm going to teach you everything I know about this particular kind of top landing and a fundamental piece of glider handling that you need to know when you're close to the ground. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Stoked you're here. This is Ari in the Air. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Ari. I teach high-level paragliding, and I'm also the founder of the Paragliding Men's Group. It's a transformational men's group made of paraglide pilots from around the world who all invest in themselves in a 90-day online intensive to radically improve their relationship and communication skills through authentic leadership. If that's something that you'd be interested in, read more about it in the description and apply. This is your last chance to get in before the price goes up in 2026. This also might be the last cohort of the Paragliding Men's Group altogether. Just been a wonderful thing. Just graduated 12 guys from 9 different countries for the 4th cohort, and so we're enrolling the 5th. So let's get into this video. As always, I'm going to play it for you one time, and then we're going to go back and break it down. Okay, so he's on this purple and blue rush. He comes over and he turns figure 8, and then he starts to head back over the landing field. He does not fly very deep over the landing field. He starts getting onto the brakes, start making a hard turn, spins, free fall right onto his back. Oh, it hurts to watch, and I hope he's okay. I know he's okay. He emailed me and we discussed this. If I remember correctly, he's a professor somewhere in Southeast Asia, and this is the closest. I think he teaches in Thailand. Anyway, it's been a couple of months since I've been hoarding this video, waiting to tell you guys about this. There's a lot that I want to tell you about this, and I'm going to use my pen and paper in a minute. Okay, so one thing right here, he kind of makes his first, what is a pretty reasonable decision, which is to do a figure 8 right here, right? He doesn't turn downwind over the landing field. He does figure 8, so he turns out towards the relief, and now he starts crabbing back over the landing field. This is a big problem, actually. This is how he sets himself up to crash by doing this. So ultimately, let's talk about just like what he does with his hands that make him, that ultimately do him in. And then we'll go back and we'll just like review his entire approach, and I'll show you with the pen and paper here what I think he could do with the approach. And maybe we're thinking about kind of the things that he had in his head as hazards that may or may not be real hazards here in this scenario. So as we play forward, he's still like 50, 60 feet off the ground right here. And then he's starting to really put a lot of brake and ends up stalling, spinning and then stalling the glider. So if we go back here, let's go to the moment that he actually starts this turn. Okay, so basically at this, we can call this trim speed of the glider. And then you see right here, he's got a lot of left brake, and he's mostly sitting in the middle of his harness. Okay, that's going to be a problem. Here, now he's pulling a ton of left brake, and he starts pumping the right brake. Watch, he does a couple pumps here, pump, and that's all it takes. A first pump, really, and it's all it took to stall the glider. So as a kind of a rule of thumb, when you're low to the ground, basically he doesn't want to turn the glider super sharp, right? He's coming into land. And so that's why he's using so much outside brake to try to dampen that turn. But he's also low to the ground, and he's kind of like pinned in, and he feels like he's in a really tight area to land. And so he wants to turn, but he also doesn't want to let the thing speed up a lot. And so he ends up doing a lot of inside brake without a bunch of inside weight shift, which is kind of a problem. And then he ends up pulling the outside brake, which kills the airspeed of the whole wing and stalls the thing all at once. Obviously, once you stall the wing and you're 20 feet off the ground, like the deed is done and you're going to slam into the ground really, really hard. Luckily, I think this like may have broken a vertebrae or something, but obviously didn't kill him. It really doesn't have to be much worse than this to kill you. So this is absolutely as serious as it gets. So let me just I'm going to draw, just if you look at the situation here, you can see that there's a hill, right? It goes down to relief, and there's lots of green area. And then in this picture, we can see cars behind and then a clubhouse of some kind. So I'm just going to draw this from the position that we're sitting in right here. Okay, so basically back here, we've got the clubhouse, right? This is the building that we see. And then we've got some cars. And then we've got the hill. Okay. And so over here we saw a windsock. The windsock was blowing in. Okay. So what he did was over in this area, he came and he did like this big figure 8. And then he came back on a shallow trajectory here in front of here. And then he turned and he spun the glider right here and crashed. Okay. So one of the reasons that I think one of the big mistakes that he made was pinning himself in here with such a shallow approach over the field. Basically, if he would have, instead of doing this big figure 8 over here and turning out, if he would have just done a big loop this way and come in over here so that his final approach was much straighter, this would have been so easy because he would have been on final here and then he could have been on the brakes symmetrically and he would have just landed right here. But this shallow approach, the problem with his approach is that it has a big turn in it, basically, right? If we go back and we look at the video, like he's going to try to land right here in front of the camera, and now he's on final, he's 20 feet off the ground, but he's got to do some big 180 turn. That's not okay. In skydiving, like we're trying to keep beginners from doing low turns of any kind. It's like you set up a final from 500 feet and you stay on final for 500 vertical feet. So here, his problem is that he has a big turn inside of his final, right? A couple of things that looking at his video, I think that he's afraid of. One, he's afraid of going too deep over the landing field. Maybe he's afraid of there being some kind of rotor from the upslope breeze here, the upslope. But in general, that's just not going to happen. Like the wind is not crazy howling and it's not going to produce rotor. Like all of this air over the entire clubhouse, parking lot, and landing field is all going to be able to fly. The other thing is that he's afraid of making a downwind turn here in this area. And so he comes out onto his figure 8 and then ends up with this very shallow base where he's trying to like do some kind of turny thing right here to stuff it in. No. Whatever you have to do, if you need to do figure 8 so that you can just back up and back up and back up and then fly on to final, that's way better. What you want to set up here is that your final is straight. You shouldn't be turning on your final. So you need to set up a straight final. That means you got to get behind, you got to get downwind of the landing field, right? Here he was just trying to crab. And this is a high level skill, right? You're going to see me do this. You're going to see lots of pilots, if you're super advanced, you can come in side hill, crosswind and do some technical flying and end up landing just fine. But in general, even me, I'm trying to make my final as straight as possible. So you want to really instead of setting up with a shallow turn here, get back over the landing field so that your final can be straight. That way, you can just use the brakes and you can flap, you can do whatever it takes. You pull big ears so that you land here in the landing field instead of trying to sneak it in, spin it in. And if we go back to the video here, ultimately the thing that does him in is just too much brake and he stalls, spins the glider. So you got to mind your airspeed. But in general, this turn where we're looking, where he, there's parking lot, motorcycles and clubhouse behind. On this part of his flight, as he comes across this right here, he should have turned further to the right, gotten deeper back over the landing field so that he didn't feel like he needed to do a 180 here. All he needed to do was a 90 or an over 90 so that he would be over the cars and then coming towards the camera. So this is kind of an approach mistake that leads to a situation where he needed more skill with the brakes than he had. And that's always, something that is a problem in paragliding. How much skill do you actually have with the brakes? And are you flying a flight path commensurate with your skill? And do you understand what the hazards are as you fly that flight path? And here on his approach, he basically hemmed himself in. He was in too tight of an area. He was trying to land in too tight of an area. And the area could have been bigger if he would have just expanded it in his mind. Obviously, this is where good instruction and mentorship comes in to let you know, hey, that thing that you're afraid of being too far over the landing field because of rotor or something, that's not a hazard here in these conditions. Feel free to fly deep over the cars there and then turn and have a long final coming back into the wind. That's totally okay. So that's kind of my comprehensive thing about this. I'm glad that the pilot's okay, and I hope that this is very useful for him. Thank you so much for sharing this with us and for sending this in. And I appreciate your patience as I've sifted through all of my various videos to get to this one. I make these videos in an attempt to help your flying be safer, funner, more fulfilling, more successful. And this is the same aim that I have in the Paragliding Men's Group, to make your relationships, your life, your paragliding, your business, especially how you are in your home with your wife and your children, more successful, more joyful, safer, better. If that's a path that you're on, then consider joining us in the 5th cohort. The price is about to go up and the doors are about to close. So this is your last chance to apply. The link is in the description. Those applications turn into a one-on-one call with me. So would be happy to do that. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next episode.